So again, this verse says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So if a child has natural musical abilities and is given space and time to pursue this passion, when he is old, it will remain with him. We consider this a great spiritual crime to force a child to play football, for example, who does not enjoy it. This is a crime against his soul. So the parent must stop and observe their child. What is the natural inclination of the child? The natural inclination. And most parents are busy beating out of the child their natural inclination, not with fists, not with physical blows, but with words. With words and disdainful looks and redirects. And in order to find this natural inclination, space, time must be given with no demands on the child for performance of any kind, allowing the child to just be, and in that space, the natural inclinations will emerge. When this vessel's boy was very small, 3, 4, 5, he would spend countless hours and hours and hours drawing. He could spend many hours drawing money. The dollar bill he had been given, he could copy it perfectly until he had 20, 50, 100 of his own dollar bills that he drew, that he counterfeited. And he could spend hours doing this without needing anything from anyone. This was his natural inclination. Now, some might look at the child and say, there is something wrong with that child. That child has just spent 10 hours drawing these $100 bills. But the mother understood this was his natural inclination and did not interfere. So parents have great difficulty in letting go of expectations of behaviors for their children.
Yes, and that's where I believe our education system fails. I believe they should see where the child's gift is and support them in that way.
Yes, and there is a fundamental lie beneath this issue. This is the lie. The lie is that children cannot be trusted to discover and develop their own gifts and talents. This is a travesty in our mind. For we in the fairy world understand that children are born with inherent God-given traits, abilities, talents that are their God essence, and they can be trusted to be in this God essence, to express it, to develop it, and to share it. And we think it a spiritual crime for adults to correct, suppress, corral these little ones, to distrust and disown their own children by demanding they be something they are not. For example, a child might be the class clown, always laughing, joking, jesting, entertaining, and may be scolded for this behavior, even labeled a bad child. When in truth, this child is an immortal, a fool, a joker, a jester. This is the child's gift to the world. And we desire that space be made for this child's being, essence, gifts. When this vessel was very young, first grade, that would be 6 years old, as she sat beside her sweet friend in school, and they giggled in class about something, a very normal thing for little girls to do. A very normal. And the teacher sent her to the coat closet and made her put her nose in the corner. And so she learned that to be shamed, she will be shamed if she laughs, if she giggles, if she talks too much. Well, who says what is too much? And so a lie, a bad seed was sown. We have been talking about seeds this week, so we shall continue. A bad seed was sown that she was too much laughing, too much joy, too much happiness, too much talking. What nonsense. In truth, the teacher was jealous because the attention was not on her. That is all. Adults do not like to be upstaged by children, and we think this is foolish. We wish that all adults would be upstaged by children. Adults would do well to let go of all their natterings of the mind, ponderings, worryings, frustration, and simply get down on the floor and play with their children. In fact, they would not need to go to the psychiatrist or the psychologist if they would just do this one thing. For all healing that is needed, the word healing not being exactly the right word, but wholeness, all wholeness that is needed is found in being a child of God. Every dis-ease, every dysfunction, every frustration, hurt, wound, emotional scarring, trauma, all of these things are simply the fruit of forgetting that one is a child of God. Were all these ever so smart adults to be more childlike, things would be immensely different. This This is the gift of growing old and becoming childlike, losing all your finesse, your suave, your tact, your discipline, your organization, to simply be childlike is extraordinary. When you danced the other night with your wife, the both of you dancing quite foolishly, not at all coordinated, skillfully, the bliss began to settle ever so sweetly. Also, children are very honest and perceptive. You cannot fool a child, they know the truth. We also consider it a spiritual crime to induce children to doubt their own instinct, their own perception, their own radar for the truth. Parents do this all the time. For example, a young child might be introduced to a stranger, perhaps not a stranger to the adult, perhaps a friend, a neighbor, a relative, a colleague or co-worker. It is introduced to the child for the first time, and the child refuses to extend his or her hand or refuses to acknowledge the person or look them in the eye, and they shall be scolded by the parent. But the child has an instinct, intuition, understanding that the person is not a nice person, a bad person, an unsafe, untrustworthy person. The parent commits a spiritual crime by demanding that the child associate with the adult against his or her own instinct. The parent would do well to notice whom the child rejects.
Yes. And who is attracted to.
And would be all the wiser. Instead, parents teach the child to be false, to be untrue to what their gut is telling them about another, and to play nice.
To be polite.
Oh, we hate this playing nice. We hate it. In older days you might remember, children were allowed to fight it out. They were allowed to exchange their words and perhaps even their blows and then be done with it. And then the children were fine. They continued on in their relationship. A much healthier time for all. Now children are taught to play nice. In other words, to be false. To ignore their own instincts, their own impulses, their own emotions. And this is a crime.
Yes. I agree.
And this you may tell your parents when the child, and we believe you already do this, when a child comes in with consistent tummy aches. The parent needs to listen. When is it that the child has the tummy ache? Is it every Monday morning when it's time to return to school? Is it every Sunday morning prior to church? Are the children's bodily signals being listened to and respected? Is the child taught to listen and respect what their body says to them? If a child has a headache before football practice every week, why is that being disregarded? And what are you teaching your child about their own health and well-being? Parents may take 2 Advil and drink a cup of coffee if they have a headache on Monday morning. So be it, but we consider it a spiritual crime to demand such behavior from a child. This a suck it up type of attitude. This deteriorates and erodes the child's ability to cherish his or her higher self, God's self, to obey inner direction. A miraculous thing will happen when some of the new parents in the earth are awake enough to realize and wise enough to acknowledge that their infants might be more ancient and more enlightened than they. When this begins to happen, the earth may begin to transcend. As others in this round table have said before tonight, what is needed in the earth is not more politicians, more business persons, more religious leaders, more teachers. What is needed are fathers and mothers who have their shit together, who are awake, who realize they are providing space for the very essence and nature of God to manifest in the earth through their children. Above all things, we wish that parents would cease to force anything upon their children and cease practices of force of every kind. And we wish for parents to gather up their own loving authority and influence and be examples. What else may we answer for you?
Well, once again, I've got in that state to where I can't think. The mind just doesn't work in this state.
Yes, Bella has been on her soapbox this evening. It has been fun.
It's been some very good information, very good.
We love our children very, very much.
Yeah, I really like treating them. So that's very important information.
Keep blessing the children.
One of the biggest things I've seen with children is becoming sensitive to foods.
Yes, because the food is so contaminated.
Yes.
So, when it is appropriate, accessible, teach the children and parents to bless their food, to pray for their food to be clean, energetically cleansed. Simple words such as, "Thank you for this food. Please make every bite of it into the very exact things my body needs to thrive. Thank you for this food."
Yes, what I do sometimes when I'm taking something that's not the best for me, I see it being full of love, filling it full of love.
Yes. Children were classically taught from a very young age to say a blessing over their food. Why? Is there any merit to this practice, or is it simply a lifeless tradition? What was the origination of this practice?
I guess to purify the food.
Most certainly.
That's why I tell people that eating food that's cooked in a McDonald's by somebody who's angry and upset is nothing like from a loving mother.
That is correct.
And that they should have an Italian or a Jewish woman cooking on each floor of the hospital, cooking specifically for each patient, and they'd be out of there half the time.
Yes. Food may absorb loving intentions just as water does.
Yes.
Perhaps the mothers may even write loving messages upon the water bottles. When this vessel was young, her mother would many times write a loving note on her napkin and put it in her lunchbox. And she enjoyed finding this note from her mother during the school day.
Excellent idea.
Writing loving notes on napkins, on a paper, in the food, on the water bottle or the cap. Just to plant a loving seed. Pleiadians here, checking in about your heart. We are thinking it should be feeling better this evening.
Yes, you are correct.
Yes, so we have removed the Jack. There's no need for this support now at this time. Your spare tire has been changed. You should begin feeling better now.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I'm so grateful.
Yes.
Please tell me if there's anything I can do for you ever.
It is our joy to serve.
Yes, and it's my joy to serve you.
Yes, it is a mutual collaboration. Please continue to take good care of your heart.
Okay. I think about you all, you guys, your collective, a lot for some reason. Makes me happy.
Yes, you belong with us, as we shared before. In our collective, we count you as a member of our council and a master of energetic anomalies and engineering.
That makes me happy.
Yes, you have a seat with us in many matters concerning the mastery of energetic, quantum possibilities. One specific purpose of your lifetime is to, as a scientist, collect volumes of experience around energy, the energy manifested, expended, and renewed in physical vehicles in third dimensional experience. And this experience of yours, this information, is of great use.
Good. Good. I'm always trying to learn all I can about healing and how people on this dimension heal, how and why they heal.
Yes, you are both a giver and a receiver in this realm of knowledge and have much to impart. Caution for in your thinking, in your third dimension, you may feel this is information to be passed to an acupuncturist, which it is. However, we would like for you to understand that all of this information will be disseminated on a cosmic plane through the Pleiadian collective. So, as you are gathering this experience and information, it is stored within the Pleiadian collective and is therefore useful in very many dimensions of time and space. We're not sure if this makes sense to you, trying to explain another dimensional reality.
I think it does, actually. I think it does.
One way we could say this is if someone had been recording all of your work in energy medicine, personal, professional, spiritual, if someone had recorded all of this work, over the past decades of your life, this work could be accessible to anyone in your dimension who listened to this recording. Well, in the Pleiadian collective, we have indeed recorded all of your work in energy medicine, understanding of energy, fields, reading rooms, etc. All of your work has been recorded and is a part of our collective conscious, and all of us have access to this information at all times. It is disseminated throughout our collective consciousness. One major purpose for your being in your wife's life is to teach her through example and day-to-day experience and conversations how to manage the enormous power that she is running as an enlightened being. Okay. For power without parameter and direction it can be overwhelming and possibly ineffectual, and so your presence with her at this time is guiding her in directing, managing, withholding, disseminating, establishing boundaries for the power which she now runs as an enlightened being. This is very crucial to her own growth.
Yes, I think I can do that.
For it is likened to this. If a child is given a box of matches, as she may light a fire for warmth, as she may also burn down a forest. It can be somewhat frightening and overwhelming to hold that capacity in her hands. It is a comfort to have another to witness, to give feedback, to guide, protect, remind, so that the fire can be used appropriately and for the best interest of all, and to help curb her fears regarding the power of what is at her disposal.
Okay, yeah.
And also, there is a time to burn the whole place down, so to speak. And she will need courage and reassurance to do so.
And a little bit of that came out today.
Yes. Yes. A great comfort you provide her by being there for these experiences. For each new person who comes to this vessel for a channeling, a message, it shall be as if a match were struck and the spirit of the receiver is lit like the wick of a candle. And so each one is being lit, being ignited in their soul, and shall begin to burn, be a flame, be a light. And with each one who comes, the light will grow.
Nice, good.
And the collective light will expand and brighten. And this will be a delight.
And this is what Bhagwan did to me.
Yes.
What an amazing thing to be part of.
Yes, extraordinary.
Yes.
Gratitude all around. And so there will be igniting of souls which have been dimmed, darkened, or not fired at all. Until now, these souls shall be lit and fired and burning bright, and egos shall have to go on the bonfire. And so when the ego is leading, the vessel will at times feel cruel or mean in response. However, there is no mercy for the ego. If the ego is given mercy, it will simply remain on the throne. And when the ego is enthroned, misery and suffering will be the subjects of the kingdom. And so the ego must go on the bonfire.
The holy fire.
Throw it on a funeral pyre and light it up and push it out to sea. For no one can serve two masters. No one can serve God and the ego. And no one may know God with the ego firmly affixed to the soul. So this vessel is a vessel of fire. The fire might be a simple flame of a candle to guide the way, to shed light on the path, to illuminate what is dark. And perhaps at times a little more fire, a fire in a hearth to warm, to comfort, to kindle intimacy. But at times it shall be a blazing, a terrible fire, to clear off, to decimate egoic structures, generational injustices, worldly constructs, and so it must burn.
Yes.
Allow the vessel to weep. At the destruction.
I do.
And she shall be obedient, for this is her commitment at this time. And this is the truth of enlightenment, which you are both beginning to learn. This is one truth of enlightenment. Enlightenment is not that you cease to cry about pain, injustice, suffering. even that which is deserved. Enlightenment is crying and having God there to wipe your tears. This is the difference.